Welcome back. The previous Gen Z discussion brought out themes such as curation and digital fluency, all central to today's luxury experience. We continue with these themes into the next session, personalization powered by data and AI. Here, we will discover how LVMH maisons are using data and AI to make informed decisions that help to craft the customer experience of tomorrow. Introducing the panelists in dialogue today, we have Wendy Chan, Senior Vice President, Digital APAC, LVMH, who manages the Asia Digital Transformation and Strategy team for the LVMH Group. She joined LVMH in 2003 as a Regional Media Director for Asia Pacific and then moved to L Catterton Asia in Singapore subsequently. She started the LVMH Digital Asia Department in April 2017. Joining Wendy is Archer Lee, Vice President Digital and E-commerce for Sephora China. Archer has been leading the e-business team at Sephora China since 2019. He's an omni-channel and digital transformation pioneer and e-commerce veteran with brand and retailer experience across APAC. We also have Amrita Balaji, Senior Manager, Regional Growth Marketing Southeast Asia, Sephora. She currently leads the marketing tech and SEO functions, which are responsible for the growth of Sephora's e-commerce business. On this note, over to you, Wendy, to kickstart this panel discussion.
Thank you. So thank you and good morning, Archer and also Amrita. So it's very good to have you today, and then so we can also share what is actually in this region, right? And then also the practice of LVMH. So today's sessions, right, is about future of luxury, and our discussion is focused on data and AI. So I think it seems like it's not really related, right, in terms of luxury and data and AI. But actually, we see that in our industry, we actually use it quite a lot. So why I'm saying that, because data, AI provide us a personalization opportunity, and also to increase or improve the consumer experience, right? So far, maybe Amrita, you can share with us what you see in terms of the opportunity of using data AI in the discipline in Sephora so far.
Yeah, definitely. I think all these buzzwords you just said, personalization that's powered by data and artificial intelligence, all these terms are super interconnected with each other, and I think definitely very key in shaping up the experience that we give to our customers. First of all, I want to talk about my perspective with respect to Sephora. As we all know, Sephora is an omni-channel retailer, and one of our key focuses has always been to provide that seamless experience for customers between the digital and the physical stores. The physical store, the retail store itself, it's a great front to provide that experience for customers, for experiencing the brand, experiencing products, etc. And I think especially after the pandemic, with restrictions to accessing stores, products, etc., I feel now more strongly than ever that actually technology is kind of the way that can bridge the experiential gap between the e-commerce and physical retail stores itself. In the beauty space, technologies like augmented reality have started picking up a lot of traction. Even at Sephora, we have tools like Virtual Artist, which is basically an app which is a tool on the mobile app where customers can virtually try on makeup. It has augmented reality features such as the ability to try on different shades of lip colors, eyeshadows, etc. And it's a super useful tool to have on the mobile because it's the closest experience that you can get before you can actually purchase products on e-commerce. So I think going on the same tangent, I believe that similar AR augmented reality tools could be super helpful in the product discovery phase for customers, especially because it's on their mobile where they engage with a lot of time for a lot of time in a day. I would just take examples like, facial scanners to help beauty shoppers identify the skin tone and actually recommend the closest shades of foundations or concealers, etc., or like, skincare analyzers that are able to analyze skin, ask customers for their concerns, and then actually take all these data points and be able to drop a very personalized recommendation for customers overall to address their skin concerns. So I think I could go on with these examples, but I think I just want to summarize by saying, like, I think these technologies are definitely a very interactive way for customers to engage with the brand. And I think in return, it gives brands the opportunity to provide a unique and personal experience to customers as well.
Thank you. And I think that discipline is also related to our other industry. So because like LVMH, we do actually have fashion and also beauty, right? So I think Sephora is like a very advanced in terms of like using data AI technology in the storefront and also in the back end. But actually fashion brands, we also using virtual fitting. And that's a lot of tools that we're using today in technology. So people can actually reinstall a virtual fitting room in one of our stores, in Laura Piana as well in Beijing. And then so people can go and measure the size, and afterwards the size of the body size and all this will be on the phone, and then so the sales associate able to recommend what kind of product is actually best for them. So it's also part of the data that we can actually use and then recommending the right product and right product fit. But at the same time, we also can give the best experience, and this is what we are looking at. So, and how about Arthur? Because I think China is also in a slightly different ecosystem, right? So how you see in terms of the data and the challenges and also the areas that you're looking at in challenges and opportunities in the China market for data today?
Sure. So thank you, Wendy. I think when we talk about the technology and the usage of data, most of the time we're starting from the technology perspective and how to use the technology to helping our customer experience. Well, when we're actually doing the implementation, there are challenges. Actually, it's more from psychology perspective. There is an example. If you actually come to Sephora China flagship store one day, right at the moment you enter a store, our beauty advisor is able to recognize you and immediately call your name saying, "Hi, Wendy, how have you been? I've got your favorite Dior Serum lotion ready for you." Besides surprising, would you be a little bit scared about that kind of situation? Well, you may also have experience when we are still used to buy things from the neighborhood mom-pop store, right? The store owner greeting us by calling our name, bring the low-fat milk without asking us what brand we need, and even asking us how your dad have been so far. You won't be often at all. So this is actually a very interesting situation when it comes to like personalize the experience. You can see that just the leverage on robust technology to build personalized solution is not enough for user experience. And establish a high level of trust actually is a very critical at the beginning of the usage. And also given right now, like when people want to exchange their personal information for personalization, the more transparency we are to share them, to let them know the benefit is, the better they will willing to be part of the personalization journey. So at Sephora, especially back in 2020, when at the beginning of the COVID breakout, we developed a tool called Smart BA, which is a remote selling tool based on instant message that allow consumers to engage with our beauty advisor one-on-one based. And this is, I think the most beauty part of that is actually the journey. Although it's a digital journey, but the journey normally don't start with digitally just from instant message. The journey actually started when the consumer in the store, when they meet our BA, they have the face-to-face conversation. That's how they started their journey. And that's the time the BA started to have the conversation, knowing the customer better. And at the end, they ask them to see whether you want to scan the QR code and they can follow. We can become a like WeChat friend. We can continue the conversation even afterwards. And based on that trust, right, and also based on the technology we given through the digital tools, the BA can engage them with recommendations by better understanding their historical purchase detail, etc., to help them to giving more precisely like a service or recommendation to the customer. And also, most importantly, the BA is also a great touch point to helping us because they meet the customer face to face, right? So they can help to put in the customer tagging or customer profiling to enrich the customer tagging into the system. So I would say this is a part of using the digital journey, but in a way that both with technology and also people in there.
Right. Thank you, Archer. And I think it's very interesting, especially when you share the example, right? In the old days, you have the mom and pop shop, brick and mortar store. You go to the shop and then the people just look at me and know exactly what I want. I don't feel that scary, right? Because that's a trust level because I go there every day. We are leveraging in terms of the data today and then trying to use that to give the best experience. Well, maybe we will not be able to know that person that well, right? And that's actually not applying just for Sephora, but it's also for fashion brands. If you're looking at from a consumer perspective, when we go to a store, right? When we go to Dior store, when we go to Fendi store, in the old days, you always have a sales associate that understand what you want. And what do is they put all this information on the book. So they will mark it down and say that, oh, okay, Wendy Chan actually like high heel shoes, but not too high and all this, right? And then you collect all the information. The information may not be perfect because I may go to one store to buy things. The other day I may go to Paris, right? So today the tracking of the information is important, which actually allow our sales associate to be better serve me or serve the client because you will have all the informations that is being collectible in this space and then able to use it. So it's not just about giving consumer experience, but it's also helping our store staff, sales associate to do their job in a much better way. So hopefully data is not just about consumer experience, but internally is also a sales experience, which actually can make it more efficient for our sales associate to prepare the sales ceremony and also to understand our consumer better as well. So data is not just about personalization to customer, but it's also helping our sales associate for sure. So I think this is pretty much like the areas that we are looking at on opportunity and challenges, right? But looking at the future, because today's topic is about future of luxury in Asia, right? So Amrita, what do you think data will evolve and then how the luxury industry may change because of this new data era?
Right. I think like Wendy, what you just said earlier was perfect. Like data is one aspect of using data is definitely to give customers that very personalized and special experience. But I think on the back end, it definitely helps. I think businesses also make a lot of smarter decisions. Like I want to give you a few examples. Like when it comes to paid media marketing, data plays a very key role to maximize the returns on investment. By understanding, the customer's touch points in their journeys, we are actually able to find efficiencies in our marketing spends. So we actually track a metric called marketing efficiency to ensure that we are minimizing the cannibalization between the different channels. We use data to understand, I think, even points of diminishing returns in our marketing investments, which basically goes on to mean that until what point can you keep scaling up, your spends on different ad platforms before you stop seeing any incremental returns on ad spends. So I think that's one aspect. Being in marketing technology and closely working with CRM, we use data a lot to understand customer behavior, such as what points in the life cycle journey do customers need interventions from us so that we are able to increase their lifetime value, increase their loyalty with us itself. I can give you a super cool example, actually. We obviously, all of us want our customers to return to us and keep making repeated number of purchases. So I think one valuable data insight that we found out was that about 70% of these people who actually make their second purchase with us make that purchase within 60 days of their first purchase. And even the lifetime value of these customers are actually about 30% higher when the purchase gap between the two purchases is 60 days or below. So obviously, I think with this insight, we plan very targeted strategies to intervene these customers' journeys at the right times. And if needed, we even offer like interesting promotions to increase their chances of conversion. I think from a customer's point, obviously, they're more they have more reason to come back to us because we're telling them, we're giving them something that's relevant to them as well. And overall, I think it helps increase the loyalty to the brand as well.
Thank you, Amrita. I think it's very interesting when we look at data, right, to do better targeting. And that is also to improve the efficiency, right? Because the cost of the acquisitions of customers is getting more and more expensive. And then how we actually can use that is actually very important for us because luxury is in a way is a very niche market. And then we need very precise data to help us in order to be improving our efficiency. So Archer, what do you think about the data shaping the future of luxury?
Yeah, I should totally agree on that. I think the data usage and the personalized experience are particularly critical for luxury retail or luxury service type of experience. Also related to the early example that we mentioned, if you actually at a 5-star hotel, right, and at the reception, they call your name, they even tell you the room is set up in the way you favorite, you won't be surprised or scared at all. You actually feel you enjoy that kind of experience. So this is really about when it goes to a luxury retail experience, the more customized service, personalized care, or even intimate engagement are the critical value besides just the transaction. So during the past, I think we also see that for top sales who are among the clients advisor or sales associate, normally, as Wendy also mentioned earlier, what I might observe are very similar. They actually have a group of loyal staff they know for well, and they also know them very well. They even tag the person's birthday, the person's preference, the person's family status in their notes. So with the data evolved, the technology could effectively record this consumer profiling. And most important, that profiling can be reached in a way not only from the retail touch point, but also based on their, for example, online behavior, online browsing behavior, or their CRM loyalty history, etc., to enrich that kind of consumer profiling. This is actually could be a combination about science and art, and the technology is doing the scientist part. Well, our clients advisor on the ground, they can leverage that to focus on how they can be more engaged with the person by knowing this data, by knowing this information to provide very precisely usage to them. And one of the example we are trying right now is actually combine both purchase history from the offline, which is from retail store, and the online, which is from our .com. Therefore, we have their both user purchase preference from both online and offline. And given that, we're doing the recommendation. And this is actually some proof of concept we did with LVMH Digital, Wendy's team together earlier. We see the recommendation engine is being, with that kind of single change from data input, the recommendation itself is being increased significantly from our perspective.
Thank you, Archer, and it's been a great pleasure to work with the Sephora team as well. So, because I think data is very important, right? And then when we're looking at the future of luxury, how that data can change. Obviously, from a consumer perspective, we probably didn't know, right? It's just that we know that the company or the brands has understand us better and then provides a better service. And obviously, even we use the data with Sephora every day. As a customer, we will not know that how much data that you guys have been using. But I think internally, for the luxury industry, may actually change, right, significantly. Not external, but it's also internal. Because when you're looking at the data department, who is actually in charge of data in a brand team or in a retailer, in the old days, right, or even nowadays, most of the organization, they don't have a person in charge of data. And that is going to change because the company is not going to be as it used to be, but is moving towards a data organization. How HR recruit people, how different departments use data, how different use case could be done, and that's how we can serve the customer better. So I think a lot of things that we used before in terms of our information is research and all this all can actually be found from the data. And then because of the technology, because of AI, because of machine learning, we actually can do it much better and much better every day. So I think as a brand, we also need to embrace that. And then internally, I think that's going to be a huge change in terms of technology that impact to luxury and also about the organization, right? Because Amrita, you're also in charge of MarTech. So I'm sure that in like 5 years ago, or not even five, let's say 2 years ago, most of our brands, we will not have a person that in charge of MarTech. So what's that, right? So I think that's quite a big change, right? Like Amrita, I believe you agree on that.
Yeah, I think most definitely. So in fact, I think I think even we had, I think it's been about 2.5 years since we built the MarTech team. And yeah, like earlier, I think the concept of communications existed very silo and it was about pushing things to customers based on campaigns. But today, I think that experience obviously is different. We want to communicate to customers only at times with content that, we feel they want to hear from us and not the other way around that used to happen a few years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're happy to take any questions from the floor. But I guess that's also different questions that we see, right? So Sephora is being a big organization, right? So you have a lot of access of the data. But I think different brands actually embark this with a different kind of journey, right? So maybe if you guys can share first, like Sephora Southeast Asia, how you guys start to embark the data journey when it's just first started. So what will be the major step that you guys do in the beginning?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to recollect thoughts. If I remember right, we always had, I think, thankfully, from earlier on days itself, I think our data setup, thankfully, was very well done. So I think our data warehouse had all the connectors from everywhere, from inventory, transactions, from the loyalty platform. So I think the data, thankfully, from day one was collected in the right way, which is, I think, the most important first fundamental requirement. So I remember that we started, using it in small forms of personalization for, pushing very, targeted audiences to Facebook and Google about, obviously changing the experience of our communication to existing customers versus new. So I think we started in very small steps, like how can we remind, our loyalty tiers of the different offerings of the loyalty platforms. So I think we started, I would say, not on a one-on-one personalization level, but I think we started with the data that we had. We actually started doing these micro segment levels and actually started deploying a couple of CRM models to start with to do segmented targeting, which is, I think, a natural first step to take before we can get, super personalized, and obviously before the technology kind of allows you to do that as well.
Thank you. And then we work quite a lot with Archer, right? So we are actually going through a process of data assessment and then looking at the framework and all this. So maybe Archer, you can share, and then afterwards I can share smaller Maison how we can actually do that as well.
Yeah. So there's two things actually I think very interesting we mentioned. One is about the organization. The other one is for the Maison who may feel that they don't have a lot of data, access of data. Maybe I can address the second question first. For the I would say we should not underestimate the data we actually have. It's sometimes not about the volume of the data, but more about the precise of the data, right? And especially for our luxury brands, actually quite a lot of time, we already have a very good foundation, especially in terms of CRM or loyalty program. And those data are very targeted users. And although the volume may be a lot, but from transactional loyalty perspective, these are quite high quality data. The part that we can add into that is if there is digital or offline digital touch point, that's where we can add in the data in terms of beside purchase, actually before purchase, right? What is interesting? Well, what is the in online we call it user behavior tracking, but in store is like what are the digital touch points that we can do to collect those data. This is the reason actually in Sephora we have a lot of different things. For example, the foundation finder, which is test the foundation, helping you to guide you through the foundation test. And we have a virtual artist, virtual try on of different beauty products. And also last year we have a fragrance studio. So that both include like you can test on based on your questionnaire, and also based on your actually try different smelling, the scent family, you can come to which kind of fragrance that actually is your favorite or predict which actually you will prefer. So those things is engagement, but actually the goal is beside the transactional data, we want to use this digital touch point to collect as more interesting or beside purchase, the user behavior data as much as possible. Therefore, we can have a better consumer profiling. So through this point, we can know their skin type, we can know their preference, whether it's skincare or makeup type of consumer. So those are also the parts that are helping to build the overall of our usage. And also, again, as I mentioned earlier, if at a certain point we actually is able to put both offline and online data together. So in summary, I want to say is if we look at those details of the data that we already have, it's not like we don't have data. There could be use case we actually can build based on that. So that's the first one. I think we can start with by combining a little bit more data beyond the transaction itself, but a little bit more from interesting perspective, user interesting perspective to try that one direction. Secondly is actually really about Wendy mentioned about the organization parts. This is definitely going to be the biggest challenge or the first step that most organizations should be conquered, because most of our data usage starting from one is e-com environment. As Amrita mentioned, in e-com, the MarTech, the online user behavior tracking, and also the recommendation engine, most of them are highly dependent on data. And also we have the CRM and the loyalty parts, which is more focused on transaction, which I mentioned earlier. When it comes to that, technology-wise, technical-wise, we see there is a need of technical people. And the data modeling-wise, there needs about who can clean the data, who can actually build in the model. And also, most of the case, we don't have that role is data science, is like how we use the data. And the data science actually, quite a lot of time, is coming from technical background, but actually I would say it have to be more from business background because we have instance. The instance actually is from, or the experience from business area actually can give a better direction. Before you know a lot of data, you can try on different like practical or practice. So you drive the direction. For example, one thing we did also with Wendy team together last year is about search. So with search behavior, like what kind of how we can optimize the search usage in our mini program to have a higher ROI. So initially, it sounds like a quite technical implementation. So we build the algorithm, we put all the data together so we can achieve a better results. But there is interesting finding that the keywords itself is reflecting certain, particularly cosmetic purchase behavior. And this kind of insight is a combination from our business analytic and our data scientist team together. When they come together, when they look at data, they look at that not from a data perspective, but from a consumer insights perspective. Therefore, they can drive a better results in terms of how to optimize the search direction and the search usage.
Yeah, and for sure, that's a lot of things that we can actually do. Big maison, small maison, right? And Archie and Amrita rightly point out that the first thing that we can do is to have the data in one single area and also try to track as much as information as possible. So that's many tools today. We can start with small steps, but I think for the tracking of information, we need to know whether the information is complete. Who is the owner of that data information, I think is also very important. And then the usage of it, right? So I think we can look into a few different things. Whether the management have an idea of what the data is for, and that's a vision. Then what could be small use case to be arriving to that vision on long term, right? So that's maybe small step. I would say first, tracking of information is what I just said. The other thing is to start with small use case to see small success. I also see that from the audience, they are asking about how to measure the ROI. So I think this is also related and it's very, very important. If you're thinking about ROI, right, we definitely need to measure that. Because when we need to tell the whole organization why you need to use data, from sales associate to management, we need to measure by success and the performance uplift, right? So I do believe that, Amrita, you do a lot of A/B testing and all this to see you use certain data to have a better performance, right? So maybe you can also share with us.
Yeah, definitely. So I think obviously measuring every single initiative very tangibly is difficult, but I think what we've done is definitely, like I was mentioning earlier about, the life cycle journey, life cycle marketing, where we want to intercept at, points where we feel like, we can increase customers' loyalty to the brand. So when we do when we run any sort of these tests, we always try to make sure that there is obviously a control that we kind of maintain to actually see if did this customer actually require an offer to, for example, make that conversion. So how much incremental did we get out of it? Or sometimes even maybe some customers do need a little bit sweetener, but what is that level of sweetener that is enough? Is it, is it a very nice gift from us? Is it, it could be like a dollar value. So I think we play around with those kind of mechanics quite a bit. So I think every time when we set up experiments, we make sure that there is something to compare with and learn from at the same time, because usually, Sephora is such a dynamic environment that if I were to run something today and run something after 3 months, I don't think you can compare it apples to apples and then come up with any, useful insights from there. So I think that is one. But I would say, like, going back to some of the tools, like even that Archie mentioned, right? Like virtual artists, or we have like beauty feeds on our website app that actually talk about like makeup tutorials. It talks about trends in different categories. So I think, how do you determine how well, how this contribute to the business? It's obviously not going to return you a dollar value, but then if you actually see a customer's journey when they engage with these tools or engage with these articles, and then to their point of conversion, actually, I think their assisted conversion ratio like definitely increases from those who actually didn't take those paths, I think. So similarly, I think even in store, like I think when there are services assisted by BA, etc., you actually notice that I think the average basket size is different or increases rather from a regular order. So I think it's very hard to just put like to say an ROI or to put a dollar value to it. But I think the intrinsic benefits that it kind of brings about are different in different use cases.
Yeah, for sure. Because we work with Archer quite a lot as well. So we also look into with the data personalizations, how to improve that conversion, the click-through rate, how we can actually have a better insight and then to do retargeting, right? So we do A/B testing, control group, non-control group, and all this. So I think that's we come to the last questions. We still have like a minute left. So maybe just to connect back to the previous topic, they were talking about Gen Z. So how you see data can help us to identify a better future for the Gen Z audience and all this. So maybe just give a very quick highlight, maybe from Archer and then Amrita.
Sure. I think one thing is the perception of data usage in Gen Z is relatively different to current like major usage. For example, most of e-com site is starting with search, right? So this is like a listing kind of behavior. And if you look at like China, particularly like the trendy one, TikTok, Douyin, and also Red, which is social, it's the social platform. It's a waterfall in terms of listing. It's no longer like a search. And I see that Gen Z is quite used to it. Sometimes I'm actually find it difficult to browsing around. But the experience is the more you click, right? The longer you stay, the machine learn your behavior, understand your preference in that way, and then give you a more processed or even recommended stuff. And that's also become a quite challenging at some time, especially when you look at Douyin. You feel that you are very difficult to stop because they are continually recommending you the things when you're scrolling down. You probably like it as well. So this is a typical user behavior change, I would say, from that perspective. And I see that there are certain e-com sites is also changing their UI UX from that direction. Is whether to balance in terms of listing of products or recommended of contents. So this kind of typical two-way, I would say still it have to be balanced, right? But things like with Gen Z, the trend will be more recommended and more like machine learning stuff. They actually are willing to do it.
Right. We're running out of time. And then so Amrita, if you have anything to add on for Gen Z and data path? Quickly.
Yeah, I actually think Archer was quite on point, and he actually aptly described everything. The only other thing I would just kind of add on to just say is maybe not so much on data, but I think how we know that obviously to connect to Gen Z, I think we need to make sure that even I think our tonality and our content kind of resonates with them. So actually, I think like with platforms like TikTok, etc., I can actually see the people like who are working on it, like in Sephora as well, are super young kids, like who actually understand the platform. Like I've honestly barely been to like any of the newer social media platforms. So like so I think it's right that the people who are actually talking to the audiences also kind of understand the audiences. And I think Archer just kind of summarized everything rightfully to say, actually, I think the content that they engage with, like even the social media platforms now realize that actually the power of recommendation is so strong. So they actually end up, viewing content that's very relevant to what they've been browsing with. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sure that there's a lot of things that we all need to learn. And then hopefully today our sharing will be useful for the audience. And then please do reach out. I understand that there's also a chat room that is being opened if you have any further questions and all this. But definitely, three things seems not really related: luxury, Gen Z, data, and AI. But today, is unavoidable that everything will become together. And then so more data, more information, then we can better predict and anticipate the future for us to serve better the Gen Z generation for our luxury industry. So I'll pass it back to the MC and the administration, and hope you actually enjoy today's session. So thank you very much, Amrita, and also thank you very much, Archer. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Archer.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Wendy, Archer, and Amrita for sharing examples of how we can use data to enhance the customer experience in the luxury industry, in addition to how this will evolve to create more proactive engagement and stronger communication building with customers. We move from data to another pertinent topic that is on the minds of our consumers. That will be when we're back for our next session, Be the Change, which will highlight an area that is of growing consideration for Asian consumers, the environment.